Hi, everybody.
Hi.
How's it going? Yay, hello.
Welcome to
Welcome.
College of Lore.
Welcome to College of Lore. My name's Kate,
And I'm Jill. And
and
someone's calling me right now, and I can feel the vibration on my watch.
you're so popular. They're calling you because they're like, hey, I can see you. I saw the stream. It's starting.
Hope it's not important. Um,
Yeah, you'll know if they call you again, you should take it.
yeah, it's
That's
my
what I find.
mother-in-law. So,
Oh,
hi,
okay.
Holly. If
Hi,
you're watching, I
Holly.
don't think you're Holly.
Call her
Okay, wait.
now.
This is so awkward. 1 second.
Is it a second call? It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. You go. I'll chat with the
Okay.
chat.
Yeah, let them know what we're doing today.
I will. Okay, so today is our very first book club session. So as you can see, we are in the process of reading The Monsters Know What They're Doing: Combat Tactics for Dungeon Masters by Keith Ammann. And we have read through the introductory section of the book as well as the whole section on humanoids. That's about the first 100 pages of the book. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
I can't find my phone, so I sent a text.
Okay.
So, did you tell them what we're doing?
I did. I told them all about the book club.
Oh no, is book I thought you were gonna say I told them all about the book. The club is over.
Yeah, done. We're done.
Done.
You
It was
missed it.
great. Ah,
Yeah. Sorry. Next time you can do the whole book club in 30 seconds while I go answer a phone call.
okay, well. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye. Yeah. No.
So
Yeah. So
should I
book
check and
club.
make sure the sound's working, or are we
Oh
just gonna get an
yeah.
echo?
Yeah. Well, we will
Will
get
we
a
just
little
get an
bit of an
echo?
echo, but that's okay. We can
Okay. It's
Okay,
working.
it's working?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're just worried because nobody has said anything in chat yet, which is
I
astonishing
know.
because
I
normally we
know.
have like so
At
many people
least
messaging us.
one
Yeah.
person.
Usually there is at least one person. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Okay.
yes, what I said is we are discussing the introductory chapters and the first section of this book, The Monsters Know What They're Doing: Combat Tactics for Dungeon Masters by Keith Ammann. And yeah, we're going to do this in little chunks. So I imagine there's probably 3 more chunks that we'll do at least in this book because it's pretty thick. And something else that we should start with, I don't really know that this book is intended for you to sit down and read cover to cover. It is most useful, I think, as a reference for you to look at and search up the particular type of monsters that you have in an encounter that you're running.
Mhm.
And yeah, you just, as needed, look it up. However, um, and you can say whether you are
I
like
am
this too, Jill.
super enjoying reading
Oh,
it
I am
straight through.
too. But like the reason I wanted to read through it cover to cover is because I'm a little bit like obsessive with this kind of thing. And it's like, but I just want to read, I just want to read all of it. Even though I know that I'll never remember like all of the individual entries,
Yeah.
I just want to have read from cover to cover. And I'm finding some benefit in that as well. So we'll talk
Oh,
about that.
definitely. I think if you read it cover to cover, you're going to know what's in there. You're going to know, like, things will come to you at the table. Like, if you are running something, I think it would flash back to you and you might get some information that you didn't even think you had in
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing would just be knowing what's in there. It's kind of like reviewing for a test or something, It's like at least you've read
Yeah.
through it once.
So something that I'm finding as I'm reading through it that I really enjoy is, I have the Monster Manual and the DMG and all those books. So theoretically, I could have known about all these creatures already, but I didn't read the Monster Manual front to back, right? And so because it's not as easy to digest,
Mhm.
like it's not really a page turner. Um, so I'm finding that I'm reading about creatures that I didn't really even know about before and just learning a
Mhm.
little bit about them. And that I think is going to help my DMing because it just makes me more aware of what's available and the diversity that exists in the Monster Manual and just these weird, special monsters or races or whatever that show up. So
Yeah,
that's
totally.
that's totally helpful. Yeah, because if you look at just the humanoid section, it spans from page 15 to page 93. So that's just the humanoids.
Yeah, it's a huge chunk.
Yeah.
Because, like you're going to have a lot of different creatures and monsters, and they're all like, one thing that I really like about the book is it gets into their motivation and like
Mm-hmm.
what drives them. And the basis of it is he's saying is that with only a small number of exceptions, every creature's first and foremost instinct is to survive. Like that's their main
Yes.
goal, is to survive. And I'm definitely guilty of running combat where the creatures just fight to the death, but why? Like,
Yes.
why would they stay?
Right. And
And that's something that never would have occurred to
right.
me. I'm
Sometimes
just
there
like,
are reasons, right?
yeah,
Sometimes there are
of
reasons, and
course
you
there
might
are.
have combats like that. Like if somebody is protecting their home, then they
Hmm.
might stay until the end and fight to their last breath.
Yeah.
But if,
Or to protect someone else, to help them get away,
yeah,
or if
for
they're,
religious
they're
reasons,
starving
yeah,
and this is their only chance,
yeah,
there's definitely
exactly.
reasons to fight to the death. But I mean, like, I've like previously I'd have like, a pack of wolves and they're just roaming around hunting, but why would like 3 wolves attack 5 adventurers instead of just going over there and getting the deer? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like finding motivation for the creature or the humanoid or whatever it is was kind of like a light bulb moment for me, and I think even just considering that was kind of like an elevation in my combat tactics.
Right. And even just considering that before you start making combat choices, like what is the motivation of this group of people and
Mhm.
how will that change like what I decide to
Mhm.
do? We've got a little comment here from SD Mills. As a new player, it was super intense, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Haven't come across the majority of the humanoids from this chapter, so it was a lot of learning right off the bat. Yeah, and that's kind of exactly what I was saying. Like there's some stuff that I already knew about from the chapter, but there were some
Mhm.
humanoids that I had never read anything about before. Some of them maybe I've heard of, but haven't learned, like looked into them at all. So it's
Yeah,
really interesting. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I like you mentioned earlier that, having the monster manual and everything. So the author of this book, Keith Ammann, he kind of went through and read everything and kind of took out all the bits that stood out and then translated it into something digestible and readable, and put it in an order
Yes.
that you can use in combat.
And what I love about this, about his method, is all he's doing is taking what's in the monster manual and interpreting it based on a set of rules, which he lays out in the book for you, right?
Mhm.
So he says, I look at their fighting style. So, what does their dexterity look like, and what does their constitution look like? And if you
Mhm.
have like really high dexterity, for example, that might indicate like preference for ranged attacks over melee, or what he often calls shock attacks, I believe. So that's basically like just trying to kill them as fast as possible. And if that's
Mm.
not going to happen,
Like
you get out of
surprise.
there,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then he talks about like what does the creature's intelligence say about its strategy, and
Mhm.
what does its wisdom say about its strategy? And then he also just looks at all of the other abilities and spells that the creature has
Mhm.
and tries to make all of that fit into like a sensical combat strategy.
Yeah.
So theoretically, this is another reason that I really like reading through from beginning to end this book. He tells you what the rules are, but then, like, I feel like when I read that in the introduction, I was like, what? Like, okay, I get
Yeah.
it. Like, I understand all these words, but I don't think I could, like, do this myself. But
Mhm.
then every
Mhm.
single time that I read another entry, I feel like I'm getting, like, more and more in tune with his thought process. And so, not only do you like have this overview that will maybe help you might like remember a little thing about kobolds when you're running kobolds later, but
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
also will help you just like look at any stat block and do what he has done to that stat block. So if it's something that's
Totally.
not in this book, if it's like a new source material that comes out, or even if you want to modify entries in the monster manual or create new creatures of your own, then you'll be able to kind of use this strategy to figure out how those creatures will fight.
Totally. That was the big
Yeah.
one for me was like if you're looking at the monster manual or any kind of creature combat or anything and you read just that monster manual entry, not every single creature of that type necessarily has that stat block. You can easily modify or maybe completely change. Like if
Hmm.
you had a bunch of goblins, maybe not all of the goblins have strong decks. Maybe some of them have grown up, working on their strength, and that'll be a
Hmm.
surprise for your player, and they think they know goblins, but knowing combat tactics and knowing what a strength-based character would do, you can throw that into a goblin, and then you're not kind of stuck in these kind of monster manual boxes. You can kind of break out from that. It's like
Yeah.
learning anything. You learn the rules so that you can break them.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that that's one thing that's really helping me is kind of, yeah, like learning these basics. And yeah, sure, maybe pretty much all the information's right there in the monster manual, but learning to digest it in a different way or sort of coming at it from a different point of view, definitely a different point of view from what I was looking at them
Yeah.
as or with a different point of view. Yeah. So it's, yeah, I feel like it's kinda opening a door for me combat-wise,
Yeah.
and, um, already, like, I've only read 1 section, and my combat has definitely, like, jumped, like, 4 levels in
Yeah.
complexity and enjoyment for
Yeah.
my players.
Yeah. I think so too. And so I think before I started reading this book, I think I was already a little bit beyond just like fighting to the death straight up with every creature. Like I think I had in my mind that, people would run away. But this goes a little bit beyond that, and it's much more sophisticated and much more detailed, right? So like
Mhm.
um
Even,
the
like,
the
them
pl- the
setting up before
yes,
combat.
getting ready beforehand and doing like a surprise attack round, for example, or like not even engaging in combat if they can't have that, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, like totally depending on what type of creature you are up against, that changes not only like how they're going to engage with you, but also the rules of when they withdraw and how they withdraw. Like, do they dash or
Mhm.
do they disengage?
Right.
Right? And, like,
And,
at
like, do they
what
leave a
point?
couple of warriors behind
Yeah,
to, like, protect bring up the rear, or do they all run together, you
yeah.
know?
Or is it like when this particular character reaches this proportion of their life hit points left, do they leave? Or is it about how many of their uh,
Fellows.
group is
Yeah.
still alive, right? It's like, oh,
Mhm.
3 of us have died. Doesn't matter how healthy I am. I know that we can't win this fight anymore. So the rest, we're
Let's go.
all going to go, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that kind of thinking shows some sophistication and wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily be the case for all creatures. Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, even bringing up things such as, like, dark vision. I think we take dark vision a
Yeah.
little bit for granted in D&D 5e now. It's kind of like I know in
Almost
my
everyone
game
has
sometimes
it.
almost everyone has it, and even if someone doesn't, I often forget to force them to hold the torch and make them, either hold the torch so you can't hold a two-handed weapon or anything like that, like, I forget
Yeah.
about that. But in this, it makes a point if they have dark vision, they're not gonna be fighting out in the light. They're going to either strike at night or if they're in a cave or whatever, like,
Yeah.
they're gonna fight if they have the choice in the terrain and the environment that is most beneficial to them.
Yeah.
Because overall, in the humanoid section, they usually have decent intelligence and decent wisdom
Right.
compared to some of the later topics I think we'll get into, like oozes and undead, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. So, an interesting kind of fighting technique that he talked about, I think goblins maybe is the first time he talks about this. Are they like the stealthy ones?
Goblins.
Dark vision, attack under cover of darkness. Okay, so I do
Yeah.
believe it was this. So this um very like stealth oriented low constitution type of minion, like a goblin, is something that I would throw at my party, and it's just sort of fodder, like they just die
Mm,
immediately.
mhm,
But he describes this tactic that they might use, which is like getting into combat with advantage, striking, and then moving away because they have like a
mhm.
bonus, as a bonus
Goblins, yeah.
action, they can disengage without provoking an attack of opportunity or whatever. They can do their attack action as well.
Yeah.
So they're doing this like jumping in and out thing. And I had
Mhm.
never contemplated anything like that before myself. Like I had never considered doing something like that. So there's even
Yeah.
just some straight up tactics that he brings up in the book that I kind of just like didn't know about. Um,
Yeah, and like me and that's definitely what was intended by giving them those tactics when they wrote the monster manual, but I don't think it's as blatantly obvious when you're just reading the monster manual to put 2 and 2 together
at least not for
without kind of
everybody,
experiencing
right?
it. Yeah, enough
Yeah.
some people are gonna be like, "Oh, this is old hat," but, for people who play the game and kind of focus more on role playing, like us 2,
Or if
or
you're just new, or if you're just
or
new
if
and
you're
you're not,
new.
you don't have a lot of experience in like combat tactics, like
Mhm,
where else would
mhm,
you get that? I mean, there's certain things that
yeah.
you can be
There's
interested
definitely other
in
games, but
that might provide that kind of knowledge to you, but
mhm.
yeah.
I was running a solo game the other day, and with a couple of us, and it's like one of the choose your own adventures. We're like testing through it and stuff.
Mhm.
And we had a goblin fight, and they actually employed a lot of the tactics found in this book, where you'll have kind of the stronger ones will get up and engage in melee, while the other goblins would stay back and fire at you from half cover.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, it kind of lays out the whole battle for you with these solo ones, and it's kind of a nice way to kinda get that battle tactic experience without having to, I guess, come up with it yourself. Like, it's kind of a
Yeah.
nice.
It's really nice when the scenario that you're running contains that information in it, because like I recently ran something similar, just a little one-off session for Neil and his boys, and that was from the Uncaged anthology. And there was a really great description of like, once they get into combat with this person, here's what she's going to do. She's going to do this, this, this. If this happens, she'll do this. If this happens, she'll do this. If this happens, she'll do
Mhm.
this. And so it was very clear to me like how to
Yeah.
run that encounter, and it made it so much easier.
Yeah.
So it's great, but you're not always, first of all, you're not always running material that has that detailed information in it. You're also not always running pre generated material, like maybe you want to come up with your own campaign. And
Yeah.
so you need to be the one who figures out what those tactics are going to be, or what the
And
strategy is
they're
going to be.
in here.
They are.
They have, like, really good he does have really good, and also he brings up a lot of, caster characters or
Mm-hmm.
caster humanoids, and he'll say, "This spell's not really useful in combat, but they might use it in like, before combat
Right.
to either buff themselves or to use in a speaking situation or something like that." And then
Yeah.
at the beginning of combat, they'll probably wanna do this unless this, so he does have, like, a detailed,
I
you know
I really think that spellcasters is one of the most valuable things to look up in this book because they're the most complicated to run and they're the most complicated characters to play as well. But when you're playing a spellcaster, you've gone through and like thought about each of those spells and when you might want to use them and when you wouldn't. Whereas when you're DMing, you have so many creatures that you are responsible for and that it like depending on how much time you had before the session, you might not have time to like read through all those spells and really think about and analyze like which ones are good to cast and when they're good to cast. So this book
I agree.
definitely lays that out. First of all, he just like gives you a bullet point list of all the spells
Mhm,
and says like, is this useful? Is this not useful? Like,
mhm.
is this one of the ones that you're even going to be using? Or is
Yeah,
this like garbage? Why did they include it?
exactly. And
And
another
then, oh,
part would be, like, keep a 4th level spell slot for
yeah,
your teleport, like, to get away.
Yeah.
That's a key bit of information.
You're not gonna blow all these spell slots. You're gonna save at least one for such and such. Yeah.
And
Really.
Sawyer says in our chat here, SD Mills 28 also thought the spell lists were an excellent thing to include, super easy to digest.
Yes, for sure. Although
Yeah.
sometimes when I got to a spellcaster, I'd be like, "Oh god."
Yeah.
It's like 3 pages of spell descriptions, but
I ate that up.
it's all
I was like,
it's all familiarization with content,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
yeah, again, like one of my big reasons for liking reading through this is it's just sort of a bit of repetition over and over and over again. And then I really do think that I'm starting to develop the ability to do this myself just from
Mhm.
reading through the book.
Another reason I think it's great to have the spellcasters in there is to take the weight off of you while prepping. Because when you're going to
Yeah.
run a spellcaster as a DM, chances are you're going to have something else along with that.
Yep.
Like you're going to be thinking about your spellcasters, but you're also thinking about whatever's in melee with them and whatever else. Like you might
Yeah.
have kind of a leader type character and then a couple of melee fighters and then your two casters or whatever. And you have to manage all of those different characters and what they can do, so having kind of like a little bit of blueprint for you already laid out is really
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah. And I think in most sections, even though he does spend most of his time talking about like the individual creature and like what it will do, there is always at least a little bit talking about like what the party composition is probably going to be and how those people are going to interact with one another.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that is helpful as well because sometimes
Yeah.
knowing what each one of them is going to do doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make good decisions about the group as a whole.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And one other little thing that I thought was interesting was he mentions it a couple of times, but if you wanted to, like, say kobolds wanted to throw kobolds at the party, you would never just throw like two kobolds at the party. Like they would
Yeah.
never fight just two kobolds show up and
No.
attack. Like that makes no sense.
They would
They
have
want
to
to
be
outnumber.
cornered or something, right? That
Yes,
would have to be,
exactly.
yeah.
Like, if they were going to attack, it would be because someone A was forcing them, or B, they outnumber the party, 3 to 1.
That was something that surprised me too, because a lot of the times, for creatures like that who
Mhm.
have that hesitance, it's not just like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Like sometimes it's like they're not going to attack unless it's 4 to 1 or
Yeah,
5 to 1. Like
yeah.
it, the numbers are higher than I would have guessed, right? So I
Mhm,
think I would
mhm.
have made encounters that weren't very realistic because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it kinda makes you think too, like, do you want to throw, like, 20 kobolds at the party? Or do you want to throw, 3 kobolds and 2 kinda overseer type
Yeah.
NPCs, right?
So this brings up something that has crossed my mind a couple of times while reading through this book. And it is like, what are your thoughts on what this will do to the game? Because what's going to happen here is the enemies are going to get a lot smarter and they're going to get a lot deadlier. Something that I
Mhm.
noticed a lot is there's a lot of creatures in this humanoid section who will specifically recognize and preferentially attack spellcasters first.
Yeah, totally.
And like what were the creatures that just have that planar transport spell that they're like one of the things that they could do is just like one of the party members is just gone, yeah, on a different plane
Mhm,
of existence.
mhm. Yeah.
So like how do you feel like about that? And
In
I mean,
my Yeah,
I think like it's going to be a lot harder for your characters and
yeah.
people are probably going to die a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
more.
definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, let's
Your
just discuss
players are
that, I
gonna have to
guess.
adapt. Yeah, so I think it's a conversation that you should have with your party when you start DMing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I am running Strahd,
Mhm.
and I had a conversation with my party, obviously about, things that they may or may not be comfortable with in the book and that
Mhm.
we're changing some stuff, but also your character is probably going to die. There's some stuff in here that is just
Mhm.
insta kill, and I am upping my battle game.
Yeah.
Uh, and they understood that, and they agreed they do want more challenge in the combat, and I am rising to the occasion. And we almost lost a party member several times in the first few sessions. Like, it's just
Yeah.
they're playing smarter because they know there's more on the line. So I
Yeah.
think they're kind of, if I'm going up here, they're coming to meet me.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for both sides of it to be aware because just for example, the party so we are putting more focus on the uh creatures, our party's adversaries. We're putting more effort on them retreating when it makes sense. Well, the
Yeah.
party is going to have to do that too, right?
They
The
never want
idea,
to
I
do that.
know. The idea, and I also, I don't know about you, but in the
Mhm,
past, when a creature runs away from a fight,
mhm.
how often have you experienced somebody like friggin' chasing that thing down until you get
Oh,
it?
yeah, that I actually a lot of my players right now will let them go, and I think it's because they recognize that they would have beaten them, and I, as a DM, if you survive your combat, or
Oh,
at
they're still
least
gonna get the
you'll get
XP.
the XP, so they're not too worried about cleaning up loose ends unless they think they're going to be, you know
Yeah,
like, if
I
they're running off to tell the boss that they're in the room, then yeah, they're gonna
of
try and stop them.
course. Like in the
But if
session
it's
that you and I and Neil and Ethan played, I think it was smart for you
yeah,
guys to kill those guys when they were running away. But
yeah.
the thing that I'm thinking of is like an early game that I was playing in.
Mhm.
We got into an encounter with this like literal dragon, right? And we were
Yeah.
not dragon killing level. Let me just say
No, no,
that. Not
yes,
that I
yeah.
really necessarily knew what that meant at the time. I was still very new. But
Yeah.
this dragon started flying away, and
Mhm.
it wasn't like, oh no, I'm scared. It was the DM like, this is planned so that you guys don't all get murdered right now by a dragon.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we were like, chase him. And he started running after me. He's like, are you sure? And eventually we stopped because we're like, oh my god, we're dying.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, totally, totally.
I just think that depending on who you're playing with, there are people
Mhm.
who will do that and who will just
Yeah.
fight to the death as well. And so you maybe need to make it a little bit more obvious to them that, hey, they're running away when they're not doing well. You guys are maybe going to have to do that as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I threw a dragon at my newer group. One of our players coming up, Jake, he's actually in that other group.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
threw a dragon at them because I was trying to introduce the dragon because that's the big boss. I'm running Ice Spire Peak. And there's this mechanic in Ice Spire Peak where you, as the DM, you roll to see where the dragon is in any given day. And it so happened that where they were going, the dragon was at town. So they were heading back to town. And I was like,
Okay.
this is a great opportunity to kind of introduce them to the dragon. They're going to see how tough it is. It's going to be a good scare. It'll be a fun battle. The dragon is going to, leave after getting X amount of damage, and or if it gets like a horse or an ox or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was going for the easy prey of the horse or the ox, and it was gonna just take it and go. But they were so insistent on fighting this dragon, and they were like shooting at it and trying to snare it and just trying to do all that stuff.
Mhm.
Understandably, you're gonna pop your cooldowns, you're gonna try and get this dragon down.
Yeah.
Um, and they all clumped together. They all went
Oh
together under this tree. And I mean, it's partly my fault because I was saying things like, "Do you guys wanna try and take cover under the tree?" And I was gonna
no.
have it so that the dragon didn't see them, and it went and got the meal and left, and that's kinda what I
Right.
was thinking. But they went and hid in cover, but kept firing at it, and kinda they lured it over, and it breath weaponed them because it was hurt, it was trying to leave. They had it
They were
in,
being
like,
jerks.
yeah, and it breath weaponed them and left. And in that breath weapon, it didn't stay to see what happened. It just was like, "Ha! Ugh," and it killed one of them outright. I was like, "You guys clumped together?" Like, they had no idea that clumping together for a dragon is the wrong thing to
Well,
do,
now
right?
they know that, and, like, I think that,
And they know that.
I remember learning that lesson in a not so
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah.
That was like
And,
a
that might, show up. That was actually there was some stuff in here that was mentioning, like, for humanoids, like, if certain spells, like, they will never waste this spell slot with a was
unless
it what was it? Thunder lightning bolt, was it? That's like a straight line, and they're not gonna waste that, spell slot on it unless there's at least 3 characters that can get in
yeah.
that
Or I
line.
remember, like, it was like a poison cloud or something
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's like,
That was another
"Okay, you're only gonna cast this if it fills the room, and
yeah.
like, your enemies can't get out of the cloud."
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
and this is another thing that I just remember in previous experiences, area of effect spells being cast like that, and then just, like, people
Pop
leaving,
out of it.
and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
well."
Oh, anticlimactic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so and oh, that's another thing about his analysis that I really, really like. There's a lot of math about damage per round.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's kind of how he decides what each character is likely to be doing. Or like for example, are you going to cast this spell?
Yeah.
um, what is the expected benefit of that over just normal attack actions? And so like how much damage on average are you going to do with a normal weapon attack? And then
Mhm.
how much does this spell do? Or how much does this like boosting spell do? Like there was an enlarge spell, for example, that I
Yes, that
remember.
was
And it's like
so
actually
the Durgar.
the enlarge one was really interesting
I
because
loved that.
it was like this inverted U shape of whether you
Mhm.
were going to cast enlarge or not, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're overwhelming them, then or it depends on the round or something like that.
Yeah,
So it's like
it was
if you
so
think
specific.
okay, this is it. Enlarge
Yeah.
the benefit of enlarge uh is kind of exponential with how many rounds you get to be enlarged for, right?
Yeah.
So you need like at least 3 rounds for it to be
Yeah.
worth it. So
Yeah.
then your character or the creature needs to decide like how long is this combat going to go? It's
Yeah.
either going to be really fast because I can just take them out, in which case I still don't really need to use yeah,
Like, he had, like, the little
a
chart
little
to
table. I
explain,
know.
the little table, yeah.
Yeah. So, like I think that the takeaway was like if there's this like middle
Window.
characterization, that's where you're
Yeah.
going to cast enlarge. But if the
Mhm.
fight's going to go on super long anyway, or especially if it's like really
Yeah.
really going to be short and you're going to wipe
Yeah.
them, then you don't
Yeah.
cast enlarge because
Yeah.
you don't need to, and it's kind of a
Yeah.
waste of an action otherwise.
Yeah, it was very much like if you think that the combat is gonna be between 3 and 5 rounds long, then at the
Then
beginning
cast
of
enlarge.
combat, cast it. You would never cast it before battle, because why would anyone be casting it before battle? But if you
Yeah.
think that this battle is exactly gonna be it was very specific, and I thought that that was so interesting.
Yeah, and
Um,
he does that for all kinds of things. It's
yeah,
like this type of character has two different types of weapons, so he's always going to use this because it does more damage. But then in some cases, it was like, well, this is good for this, and this is good for this. So if you're in this situation, you'll use this weapon. If you're in this
yeah.
situation, you'll use this weapon. Um,
Um, one
yeah.
thing for me, though, is about especially specifically about the enlarge. I feel like in some instances you'll want to use certain skills just to for the fun of it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think combat is great and I think it's important to add that challenge in your games. But I think there's something to be said for how fun it is or how entertaining it is for your players as well. And if they're
Yeah.
coming in thinking that like they see these Duragar and they're dwarves and if they think like, "Oh, let's go crush them," and then they get massive, it's this moment of like, "Oh, wait," like, like
Yeah. All
I
right.
think those few hit points are worth
So
that moment of
something that he doesn't incorporate then maybe
Mhm,
is how the players might react to certain decisions that you can make. So
mhm, mhm.
your example right there, right? Like he might say enlarge isn't useful to cast, or like thaumaturgy is
Mhm.
irrelevant outside.
Mhm.
It's irrelevant in combat. But if you're in a group who's really into role playing, for example, or you're just with some keen people who are listening really intently to what you're describing, and they don't
Mhm.
really know what they're up against, and you describe like this creature with an insanely loud, booming voice, like maybe that's going to
Like,
intimidate them a
yeah,
little
the
bit.
eyes are flickering,
Yeah.
unearthly.
And they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what is this thing? Right. And
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
like, that creates some psychological reaction in the players that may very well change how they approach the
The
combat.
combat.
So
Totally.
it's not, I don't think, yeah, he's not really
It's
considering
not
that.
law. It's not law or anything,
No, but it
but you
is, it's
it's like with the
something.
breaking the rules thing. It's the breaking the rules thing. You're learning what makes the strongest combat for the DM to throw at the players,
Hmm.
but that might not be the best combat to throw
Right.
at the players in a specific moment because 'cause you're gonna know your players better than
Yes.
Keith.
This is an interesting book because in a lot of ways it's very min-maxy, if that's a
Mhm.
term that I can use and you would understand what I mean, but it's very um, calculated and logical, and everything follows along.
Yeah.
Um, but that's not I just saw Neil walk by. Um, that's not the only way to go about things.
Oh, totally not.
Right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I think that this is great stuff to know. It's great stuff to read through. It's great stuff to consider. It's
Yeah.
probably most of the time great stuff to implement as well.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Mhm.
there's always going to be that caveat like, uh,
Make it your own.
this is not a Bible. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, this is not uh, a hard fact
Yeah.
or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, if you run into a group of merfolk and they're out looking for food, but maybe they're vegetarians, like this group specifically. Like you can change
Hmm.
any of their motivations to whatever suits your story best.
Yeah.
Or, so their methods of attack or when they would retreat would vastly differ depending on those specific motivations. Whereas if like, the merfolk down the road might have completely different interests and want to eat you specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I've been thinking about too, and that was on my mind when I was reading the chapter, is like there's that whole section on the drow, right? And I think right now a lot of people are starting to rethink the way that they think about drow, and trying
Orcs.
to inject some diversity and variance into the representation of that. Um, of
Orcs
that
as well. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But like,
Mhm.
so it made me think because I mean, this section makes a lot of sense based on the types of abilities that Drow currently have. But you just got that new book.
Yeah. So the way drow were described previously and in the 5e sort of original game is a bit different than some of the drow that are in the Wild Mount. Let me get this out here. I haven't read it fully yet, but I'm working on it. So the drow in this book aren't under the
They're not
spider
even, yeah, they're not
law,
even
I
living
don't
under,
think,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're not living underground anymore. So a lot of the tactics in this book are going to be changed if you're using,
Yeah.
you know, different, like we were saying this whole time, like different motivations, different
Even different, like
environments,
different bonuses and weapons and
different bonuses.
characteristics.
Yeah, because not every drow is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Not every tribe of orcs are going to be the same, or every group of orcs, or
Right.
like none of them are going to necessarily be what's in the monster manual.
Yeah. And so, and something else that you mentioned at the beginning too is like, well, maybe you have this particular orc that is very detailed and specific, and you're throwing that at the party. Well, you wouldn't go into this book and like use exactly what he
Mhm.
wrote for orcs for that
Right.
orc.
Hmm.
But what this what reading through the book allows you to do is modify what's there based on the
Yeah,
changes that you've made, right? So it's like
totally.
instead of like high dex, they have high charisma. So like what does that mean, right? How does
Yeah,
that
and it was
change
yeah,
like their
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, yeah, like you're getting to see a view with examples of what the different stats could mean. And just because you're reading the stats for, sorry, there's dogs barking
It's okay.
outside. Just because you're reading about dogs having sharp teeth and loud barks, maybe you run dogs that have high int and wisdom, and they decide instead of attacking with bites that they're going to, lay a trap for you.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, dogs aren't in the humanoid section. I'm just talking about my neighbor's dogs.
Mhm.
Actually, they have lycanthropes in there, don't they?
Yes.
So that was an interesting topic
I didn't
too. And I
realize how
liked
many
how
different kinds of
yeah,
lycanthropes there are.
were-rat, were-boars.
That was really interesting. The tigers were really
Oh,
interesting.
were-tigers, yeah, they were a really cool,
I'm trying to
entry as well.
flip through here. Maybe I'll
'Cause
just go to the
they were more reclusive, I think, and they wouldn't
yeah, they don't
fight
they don't
unless you were
fight.
threatening their lair kinda thing.
Yeah, and they don't fight like they're sort of lone
Yeah,
attacker or yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so there's I don't know, I guess I don't we're not gonna obviously go into every single entry or anything like that, but another thing that's cool about the book is they have really nice artwork. Like I don't know, you can see the cover over there, but
Yeah.
there's nice like illustrations throughout.
Yeah. At the beginning of each chapter, like
Yeah. I think it's a really worthwhile read for DMs, and if you know your DM is reading it as a player, you might want to read it as well.
yeah.
I think he's coming out with a player version, or he already came out with a player version
Oh
that maybe we'll
really?
have to take a look at later
Oh
to
yeah.
compare. Mhm.
Sure.
I think you can also find a lot of this information on his website. There's a lot of free information. Oh, SD Mills to the rescue! It's coming out in July. Thank you very much.
Nice. Thank
So
you.
soon. Soon.
Um, do you want to play a game, Jill?
Yeah, what is it?
Do you have your monster manual with you?
No, but I have, like, access to the
Okay, well, I
internet.
have my monster manual, so I was thinking maybe
Okay.
we could like look at the next. I think the next section that we'll read and discuss should be NPCs and monstrosities. So why don't we pick one of these monstrosities that neither of us have read yet, and look
Okay.
at the
Can I show the art for monstrosities?
sure.
To give you an idea.
So cool. I think we should pick one and look it up in the monster manual and just brainstorm how we think that he would interpret the combat
Okay.
tactics of that creature.
Alright, let's do it.
Okay. Uh,
Who do you have for us?
well, there's all kinds of things. I'll say some stuff that's speaking to me, and maybe SD Mills, you can, if you have any that you think we should do, you can type that in chat. Griffins and hippogriffs
I
sound
actually raided
cool.
a demi-griff recently.
Oh, did you? Did you? Hook horrors.
Oh, hook horrors. I'm interested.
Doppelgangers,
I've run a doppelganger before.
chimeras,
I do like a good
uh, lamias, sphinxes,
I've run Sphinx before.
kraken. There's the
Ooh.
Tarask.
Oh, you know what? I would love to well, I feel like Tarask might be a little,
Are we ready for
I
Tarask? Yeah, like
I don't know. Let I'm interested in hook horror, the Kraken, and the Tarask are my 3 interests.
all right. Let's see. Is SD Mill still there? Which one do you think we should do of those things that were just mentioned? It's like a pop quiz, Jill.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like, "It's gonna fight to the death and just bite every time."
It's just gonna come right up and attack in melee.
It's going to chew legs.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe we could start with hook horror,
Okay,
and then
let's go to
if
hook
SD Mills
horror.
has a different suggestion, we'll hop over to that one.
All right, that's on page 189 apparently.
Oh, no, SD Mills says go for the Tarrasque.
Oh, okay.
Going for the big one.
286. Oops. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
You're gonna show the art?
I do.
This is the one.
Look at this stat block. This is
It's the
all.
This might be more than we can biting off more than we can chew. I think isn't the Tarrasque the only 30 difficulty rating that we have?
Oh, I don't know.
What's its
Its challenge is 30.
Yeah, 30. It's so ridiculous.
He doesn't look that scary. He's just like a giant dinosaur.
I think I might know too much about this one, but because I think if like it's only one creature and then there's like everybody, and if you have like a monk or something, I feel like it won't be as hard than if you had a different party.
Monks are extremely overpowered.
It's gonna just like jump
it's
up.
50 feet tall and 70 feet long, weighing hundreds of tons. It carries itself like a bird of prey leaning forward. What is this? Legendary destruction. The destructive potential of a Tarrasque is so vast that some cultures incorporate the monster into religious doctrine, weaving its sporadic appearance into stories of divine judgment and wrath. Legends tell how the Tarrasque slumbers in its secret lair beneath the earth, remaining in a dormant state for decades or centuries. When it awakens in answer to some inscrutable cosmic call, it rises from the depths to obliterate everything in its path. So it is a gargantuan monstrosity. It's unaligned. Really?
Right.
Okay.
It's only out for destruction, not necessarily like any kind of.
Isn't that like chaotic neutral?
Chaotic. Oh, unaligned altogether?
It just says unaligned.
I don't know. Interesting. Unaligned.
Okay, wizards, I think you copped out on the alignment for the Tarrasque. I'm just gonna. It's my hot
We should
take.
figure out what exactly unaligned entails.
Okay, you Google that. I'll keep summarizing. So it has a 25 AC with natural armor. It has 676 hit points.
That's not enough hit points.
Its speed is 40 feet, which is kind of really not very much considering how huge it is. What?
How big is it again?
It is, well, it's gargantuan. It's 50 feet tall and 70 feet long. Wait a second. It can't even move the length of its own body.
Its tail.
Don't you think?
Tail takes up
like
so
think
much
about.
room.
Yeah, but shouldn't it be able to?
If we had tails, they'd be like 6 feet long. So
this is also interesting. Okay, so this stat block is really interesting for the Tarrasque. Okay.
Okay, here I got the unalignment thing here.
Okay.
In D&D 5e, this is just on a random like answer question thing. D&D 5e, unaligned is the alignment of a creature which does not have the sentience/intelligence to make moral choices.
That makes sense now that I'm looking at the stat block. Okay, so I'm gonna go from charisma up to strength. So it has charisma 11, which is a +0, which I think is really good for a terrifying monster.
Charisma is also, I think the reason it's actually so low is because it doesn't have the like intelligence to back up
to use it.
To use it maybe because like I think it could be super
charismatic.
Charismatic in that you're okay, I'll do whatever you want. Just don't be I'm intimidated.
Like, yes, for sure. Okay, wisdom is also 11, so +0. Intelligence is 3, so -4. -4 intelligence. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's all instinct, baby.
Its con is 30, so that's +10.
Don't use con saves on that.
Dex. Guess what its dex is? What do you think it is?
11.
Yep, it's 11.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That checks out, that checks out. It's not that fast.
No. And what's its strength?
30.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's just a bruiser. It comes in, it's like, "I can take damage and I can dish it, but you best not be quick because I can't get you quick enough."
So, for some reason, it has +5 on an intelligence saving throw.
Just
Like,
'cause it's a boss.
it just has proficiency, I guess. And
It's
then
probably like the thick skull, right?
yeah, maybe. And then
It's like
wisdom is +9 and charisma is +9. So it's 3 listed saving throws are intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
oh, wait, no, I get it, I get it. It's because it's not smart enough to be, like, duped with
Oh.
intelligence, you know? It's like, you not smart
It
enough,
doesn't get it. Yeah.
go for it.
It's like,
Yeah.
wait. It's
Eh,
like the other end of the spectrum.
it's
Like, most people
so
are
more
trying
intelligence than it doesn't
to
yeah,
make those saves from, like, being really knowledgeable, but yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Alright, damage immunities. Fire, poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. So, fire, poison, and then basically
Everything
non-magical
but
physical
non-magic.
attacks.
But that makes sense. Like, by the time you're facing a Tarrasque, you should definitely have magical weapons.
Yeah, or you
Can't
should
imagine
run. You should
or you
run
should
away.
yeah, how you get out of there.
Yeah. It is immune to being charmed, frightened, paralyzed, or poisoned. It
Why does it need
has
charisma saves it?
yeah, it has 120-foot blind sight, and its passive perception is
Oh,
10. It does not speak any languages, so you can't communicate
can't
with it.
you can't even, like, vicious mockery it or anything.
No. All right. It has legendary resistance 3 times a day if the Tarrasque fails a saving throw. Okay, so first let's just talk about the stats before we get into this stuff.
Okay, 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 okay.
So, it's got
It's not
super
smart
high
enough.
strength and super high con, so it
Yeah,
is coming right up to you and just bashing away.
yeah, it does not care.
It's
It's not
not
gonna try and dodge anything. It can take it.
no, it's not running away out of fear, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see. We'll have to decide when it's gonna run away. I think we should read the rest to figure that out. But I also think when it's choosing who it's attacking, it's just like whoever is closest,
Mm.
right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not really even looking at like the
No.
details of the characters.
So it has blind sense. That is I gotta look up the
Blind
specific
sight, I
blind
believe
sense
it
for
means
blind
that it
sight.
can just see in the dark, like complete dark.
Oh, that
Isn't
makes
dark
sense because it
isn't
was
dark vision just like dim or low light?
yeah. Oops. A creature with blind sight can perceive its surroundings without relying on sight within a specific radius. So, like, if it doesn't have eyes or anything like that,
Oh, weird.
and
It
true dragons have it. So, like, even if you blinded it, it wouldn't matter. It
it
would know where you were and
it does
sense where you
have like I'll show you again, just these super tiny eyes.
were. Good thing it has blind sense then.
Okay, legendary resistance 3 times a day. If the Tarrasque fails a saving throw, it can choose to succeed instead.
Yeah, I love that.
And then magic resistance. The Tarrasque has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects.
Ooh. Ooh.
It also has a reflective carapace?
Carapace, yeah.
Carapace?
Carapace? Carapace?
One of those things.
It's one of those
Anytime,
things that readers always see the word and we know what it means, but saying it out loud, we're like,
yeah,
"Wait, what?"
carapace. That sounds right. Anytime the Tarrasque is targeted by a magic missile spell, a line spell, or a spell that requires a ranged attack roll a d6. On a 1 to 5, the Tarrasque is unaffected. On a 6, the Tarrasque is unaffected and the effect is reflected back at the caster as though it
So you
originated.
can't hit it with spells.
And sometimes 1/6 of the time, it's gonna your spell that you were trying to damage it with is going to damage you instead, as if the Tarrasque cast the spell.
So I feel like that means that the Tarrasque does not care at all about casters.
No,
And
but it also,
a
like,
female
kinda
says,
doesn't
"Brutal."
know. I don't feel like it
No.
really even understands what's happening. It's just
Yeah.
like, maybe this is actually the easiest.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
no, we could still well, there's some stuff to talk about, but it does not even notice the casters because it
No.
literally is not being harmed by them,
Right.
as far as I can tell. Like, I mean,
I think if it fails, it saves, but it has such high saving throws and,
ooh, siege monster. The Tarask deals double damage to objects and structures. So
yeah,
do you think that that's its preferred target?
definitely. It would,
It
well, it
doesn't
would
care. It
definitely
doesn't care
come for
about
a town.
I don't know that it would be like necessarily attacking the party
People
members.
so much as it
Would
would
it
just be
be?
going in to
It's
smash
just
build.
trying to destroy large
Mhm,
things. These puny
mhm.
little people are like ants walking around. And so like you maybe are in the way and it might step on you, but so far I'm
Yeah.
not.
It might if you hit it with a magical weapon
Yeah,
and actually deal some damage. It
would
would be
you
like a mosquito,
would
right?
this be a
Like
legit
green
way
squish
to play the
mosquitoes
Taras? Yeah, like it doesn't
notice you.
target the
Right.
party until they damage it, in which
I
case it's
think that
like,
makes
"Hey, what
sense.
was that?" Yeah,
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense.
right. Alright, so say you did draw its attention. Here are its
Mhm.
its actions. It has
Okay.
multi-attack, so it can use its frightful presence, which we haven't talked about yet. It then
Mhm.
makes 5 attacks.
Oh.
1 with its bite, 2 with its claws, 1 with its horns, and 1 with its tail. It can use its swallow instead of its bite.
Amazing.
Alright, so bite is plus 19 to hit. It has a 10-foot reach. But it
Plus
can
19 to hit
but it can only target 1 target, which I
is
think it should be an
brutal.
area effect.
Yeah, yeah.
How is it only like, say there's, like, 3, uh, people, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
and it,
15-foot
like,
bite, yeah.
it just snatches up this
Plucks
one little
just
middle
plucks
guy.
the
Like,
gnome
no.
out from between the 2 barbarian humans,
Yeah.
yeah.
I could think it should be an area of effect.
Have you
Okay.
ever like, when a dog or a cat or, they're trying to be really delicate and they, like, take the treat, like, with
Yeah,
their little tiny
maybe
teeth?
that's what it's
Like
doing.
that.
It's like,
Yeah, it's like,
this is also, piercing damage. It's 36
pierce
piercing damage.
I feel like it'd be, like, crunching damage
It's
if that existed.
also if it's a creature, if the target's a creature, it's grappled. Until the grapple
As
ends, the target is restrained.
SD Mills says, "I mean with a mouth that big," agreeing with
Right?
yeah, just
Yeah.
like, "Ah, oh."
Yes.
Yeah.
Like this one little okay. Maybe there's just really big gaps in between its teeth, and so
Oh,
it's like,
it can only,
"Ka-dunk,"
it's
and then,
yeah, it's
like,
like the
everyone else just, like, just missed getting it. Yeah. Alright, claw.
every time you
Melee
two.
claw's a melee weapon attack, plus 19 to hit, reach 15 feet. W
That's cool.
Again, 1 target. It does 28 slashing damage. Horns, plus 19 to hit, reach 10 feet, 1 target, 32 piercing damage. And then we've got tail, which
So,
is
I have a
what?
question.
Oh,
When you're
sure.
running a multi-attack, uh, creature or person, whatever it is, do you aim all your multi-attacks on one PC. So like in this case, I feel like it would kind of make sense if it bit someone, pick them up, slash them a bit, and then you know what I mean? Like, or I
Hmm.
mean, or with this creature in like some things like if I'm running a werewolf, say, I don't think it would go like slash you, bite you. I think it would be like slash bite all one
Yeah.
person. But this thing would
I
it
think this thing's a little more haphazard, to be honest,
Yeah,
because
just like slashing whatever,
yeah,
slash whatever,
yeah.
bite whatever.
I also don't know that it's gonna claw at whatever's in its bite.
Mhm. It would
'Cause
probably just wait to swallow that
that thing is, like,
grappled.
grabbed there. It is
Yeah.
grappled, yeah. So maybe it just kinda, like, hangs tight on it.
It's, like, stuck between the teeth at first, and
Yeah.
then as soon
In
as it
that
gets in
case,
there, and then you're
you would claw
oh,
to,
yeah.
like, Yeah.
Release
It's
the
like a
person. Yeah.
toothpick.
Yeah.
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 It's not gonna be comfortable if they've bitten somebody with like, metal armor or
Oof.
whatever,
Oh, have you ever accidentally bit tinfoil?
Yeah, not
I
good.
feel like it'd be like that, like, ugh.
Yeah. He's like,
Its
ugh, what did
filling
I do?
be like, ugh.
That was a mistake. I should have bit that building.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much with the filling of people, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we did horns. Tail, very much the same, plus 19 to hit. Reach 20 feet, though. So that's a huge range. One target
Wow,
still.
yeah.
One target for this gigantic tail.
One target in 6 buildings.
Yeah, bludgeoning damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 20 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. Now, frightful presence. Each creature of the Tarrasque's choice within 120 feet of it and aware of it must succeed on a DC 17 wisdom saving throw or become frightened for 1 minute. A
Mhm.
creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns with disadvantage if the Tarrasque is within line of sight, ending the effect on itself on a success. If a creature's saving throw is successful or the effect ends for it, the creature is immune to the Tarrasque's frightful presence for the next 24 hours.
Okay, imagine DMing, and then you have to roll for like the random NPCs in the town to see if they're scared of the Tarrasque. Obviously, you'd only roll once. Like you're not going to roll 300 times to see if every NPC is scared of the Tarrasque. And then imagine if you rolled like a
I
nat 20 and all the all the
mean,
NPCs are like, huh,
they are though. I don't even think I
they
would
would be
roll.
scared.
I
I
don't think
wouldn't
I.
either. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
they're like, ah.
It's like, no, this happens from time to time.
These are the people who hired us to get rid of the wolves in the forest. You know what I mean? Like this Tarrasque is a nightmare.
I just like the idea of NPCs having to roll and then
Yeah.
succeeding, and
Can you
then just
imagine? This would be such a like DM troll moment. It's like, okay,
yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah.
roll to see if you're afraid, and now I'm gonna roll for the 95
Town
villagers. 1 sec.
and nat 20. Okay, they're not scared, but you've all
Yeah.
failed. So you guys run away. They're gonna handle it. They
Yeah,
each
don't
bring out
worry.
a spear,
They're like comforting
magic
you.
tip. Yeah,
It's okay. It's just a
you can do
natural
it.
being. He's just trying to live his best life. Let's let him
He is
be.
pretty big. I
Yeah.
understand.
All right, so that's frightful presence. Swallow is the last one.
Yeah.
Sorry, second to last thing. This is the last action.
Okay.
So the Tarrasque makes one bite attack against a large or smaller creature. It is grappling. Okay, so this is after you've bitten it, I guess. If the attack hits, the target takes the bite's damage, the target is swallowed, and the grapple ends. While swallowed, the creature is blinded and restrained. It has
Hmm.
total cover against attacks and other effects
Hmm.
outside the Tarrasque, and
Yeah.
it takes 56 acid damage at the start of each of the Tarrasque's turns. If the Tarrasque
Does it
takes
also take bludgeoning? There's some creatures that when they swallow you, you take bludgeoning damage.
It doesn't say anything about that
Oh,
here.
okay. Okay.
So it must have a really smooth digestive system.
Oh, thank goodness.
If the Tarrasque takes 60 damage or more on a single turn from a creature inside it, the Tarrasque must succeed on a DC 20 Constitution saving throw at the end of that turn or regurgitate all swallowed creatures, which
That's what
fall.
happens to me if I eat too much poutine. Like, it's doing like 60 damage to me,
Yeah,
and
you're
then
like, this was a
like,
mistake. Regret.
yeah.
Uh, why did I swallow that pointy guy? Okay. Regurgitating all swallowed creatures which fall prone in a space within 10 feet of the Tarrasque. If the Tarrasque dies, a swallowed creature is no longer restrained by it and can escape from the corpse by using 30 feet of movement, exiting
Because you gotta
prone.
crawl out,
So you
right?
just like,
You're just like, okay.
oh, that's so gross.
Yeah, that would suck.
Everything relaxes. You're like,
Ooh.
oh.
Ooh, ooh. I think this is the right way. Oh god, I went the wrong way. It's still only
So,
30 feet of movement though, so
right. That's interesting. You can make him barf you
whichever
up.
direction
That's
you can
really
choose.
funny. Okay, legendary actions. The Tarrasque can take 3 legendary actions. Choosing from the
Oh
options
god.
below. Only one legendary action option can be used at a time and only at the end of another creature's turn.
Yeah.
The Tarrasque regains spent legendary actions at the start of its turn. So it gets 3 of these every round. In between its turns, it gets to do one of these things 3 times. It can attack. It makes 1 claw attack or tail attack. It can move. It moves up to half its speed. Or it can chomp, which costs 2 actions. The Tarrasque makes 1 bite attack or uses its swallow.
Oh, I like that.
So,
I like
yeah, that is really
because that's the
interesting.
only way to make it, like so when you're fighting a legendary creature, it can be so demoralizing as a DM if you haven't chosen a legendary creature and you just wanted, like, a hard fight for your low level characters and you just chose something that was of, like, a high-ish DC. But if you throw 5 I don't know, the what are they called in D&D? The difficulty rating? What is it called in
Oh,
D&D? It's the
CR?
challenge rating?
Yeah,
Challenge
CR.
rating?
Yeah.
Um, I'm used to, like, Pathfinder, and I don't even know if that's what it's called in Pathfinder. Anyway, uh, the CRs are so subjective because if you have 5 players and you throw, like, and they're level, 2 or whatever, and you're trying to find something that kinda matches and you pick, like, something that's, like, 6 or 7, and you just throw that one thing at them, they're probably gonna clobber the crap out of it.
Mhm.
But if you've chosen some kind of legendary creature, those extra legendary actions make it an actual challenge because it gets to do things in between. Like, it's not
Yeah.
just like, "I go once, then you go 5 times, and then I go once, and then you go 5 times." It's
We
the
should
legendary actions that really pump it up that level
I
of
haven't
challenge.
had a whole lot of high level combats like this against creatures
Mhm,
like this.
mhm.
But I would like to test some more out because the ones that I do remember, I had in the party that we were playing in, I had an extremely high level monk. And so my 2 biggest combats that I can remember, apart from like the very last session that we did was like we fought Vecna.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But
yeah,
I remember a scenario where we encountered a beholder,
yeah.
and that was supposed to be like a really crazy challenging thing,
They can be terrifying,
but my
yeah.
monk jumped up behind it and just stunned it every time that it was my turn. I stunned it until the end of my next turn. And so we just like immobilized it, and then
Mhm, mhm.
everybody attacked it until it was dead. And then that was
Yeah.
it. And then
I
we
feel like if I was running a game and I had a monk in it, I would have to implement, like, diminishing returns on that or something
you
because
need
I
well,
feel like
what
that
you can
steals the
do.
fun.
We talked about this. I talked about it with
Mhm.
Sean, who was the GM for that
Yeah.
scenario, and he said that what he would do is just have more than one
Yeah.
adversary in the fight because
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
cannot stun lock everybody. I can only
Right.
stun one thing per turn.
Yeah.
So what he needs is a few other things to try and distract me or take me out even.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I think the reason that I'm bringing this up is because you mentioned like this. If it's just this one thing,
One
like how
thing.
hard would that be? Do you think it would be really
Oh, I think
hard?
it would be easier than you expect. Like, looking
Yeah,
at its stats and looking at all it can do, we're like, "Whoa, oh my god." Maybe we should do this.
I would
Maybe we
like
should get
that.
some players together and one of us run the Tarrasque and let's have a battle and let's see well, after we read exactly what Keith would do, if it's even in here.
It is because I only said stuff that was in the book.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. So
Okay,
maybe we should read this, run the Tarrasque, and
maybe
see how hard is it
okay.
really.
What about because it is the last thing? It's the last entry in the monstrosities section. So
Yeah.
next time that we do book club, we'll have a little chat about that section and see if there's
Mhm.
any like interesting stuff, and then we will have a Tarrasque fight.
Sure. That sounds good to me. We'll need players.
Yeah.
Unless one of us wants to run 4 characters versus the
Or
Tarrasque.
like, wait, what if like you and I both create like 2 really high level characters? We can figure out if they're max level or what they are. but we can each create one character, and then the two of us will like jointly decide what the Tarrasque does.
Okay, so we'll use the methods and we'll do a solo round
Yeah.
where that we're
And
learning a solo
or like if there's people in chat, they can say
they
what
help
they
us
think. Yeah, what they think the
with the
Tarrasque
Tarrasque
should
video.
do. Yeah. But do you
But I think we should have 2 each because I
two
don't
characters
think
each?
yeah, we should see what level.
Okay.
I think 2 level 20 characters each would make sense against a Tarrasque who is
Okay.
level 30.
You CR30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll figure it
Let's
out.
do
We'll
it.
figure it out. We'll
Okay.
prep for that. We'll prep that for the
Yeah.
end of the
Be
next
ready.
stream.
Be ready for our big Tarrasque battle.
That's hilarious.
It's gonna take like 4 hours.
You think? Oh, it's gonna be
I
so
think
boring.
it's like, well, how
We're
much
gonna be like,
HP
you
does
know
it
what? Let's just let the Tarrasque live.
eat us? Yeah, let's leave it alone.
What
Let's
did
let it
what did
destroy
it do
this
to us?
town.
Who cares about Waterdeep?
Yeah.
That's
As
gonna
T.
be
Mills says, yeah. That's
interesting.
gonna
Yeah.
be interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
I am interested because I like you don't get a lot of experiences like that, and I think that it's something that I would like to become more familiar with is how these high level encounters go. And I think it's something that you've said before that you would like to learn
Oh, yeah.
more
I
or
wanna
just to
have,
get
like,
more. Yeah, you
high
just
level fight
every time
club.
you start a new campaign, you start at like level 1, right?
Mhm, mhm.
I've had campaigns before where we started at higher levels.
Yeah, I've started at level 5 before.
I've started at like level 10 or 15.
Mhm.
Yeah, but not very often and years ago. So I don't even think it was I think
Yeah.
it was 4th edition D&D that I did that
Okay.
in. My monk was 5th edition though.
Mhm. We're gonna have to bring a monk to that fight.
No, that'll ruin it. He'll just
Okay.
stun
That
the
would be yeah, that would be
Tarrasque. It'll be like uh.
yeah. We'll yeah, okay. We'll figure it out. Alright, well, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of this first book club was focusing more so on the book itself, more so than necessarily on the humanoid section. Um,
Well, I think that
but
that's what
I
it's
think
going to
we
be a lot
touched
of.
on it. Yeah.
Just because there wasn't any.
The next ones
Well,
might be a bit shorter.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, that's why we're going to have a
Well, no, it
Tarrasque
won't be
fight.
because we're gonna have a Tarrasque fight.
Yeah, that's why. Like, maybe it's a good idea to have some kind of like activity at the end of the rest of them, just because,
Yeah.
like, that has to do with something that we. Um,
Talk about
yeah, it's like a demonstrate because it's a demonstration of
what
applying
we're
the
learning.
techniques that
Yeah,
we learned. Yeah. So
yeah,
we'll
I
read
agree.
about this Tarrasque. We'll figure out.
Oh,
Okay.
and, like okay, wait, because 'cause we're gonna have here's what we should do. So we're gonna be learning about NPCs as well. So
Right.
we'll run 1 character of our own and then 1 NPC.
Okay.
So we'll be like, I do this, and then my NPC character, blah, 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 does this.
Mm-hmm.
We're implementing all of it.
Excellent. All right. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
All right.
All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining us, and
Yeah.
especially you, Sawyer. Thank you for being here for us, and
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I hope that you keep reading and keep checking in with us.
Yeah.
Are you on our Discord? We have a Discord.
Yeah, we have a Discord. We should post it so they can join.
Yay.
Okay, I'm gonna get a link. Eh.
We should put the link to the Discord in the Twitch description stuff. Oh, good. I'm glad that you'll be back. We will see you next time for sure. And yeah, there's on the Discord, there's a little channel for discussing the book, although it hasn't been super active, but it's
Yeah,
there.
we're
It's
we're
there.
we're growing. We're building.
Yeah.
We announce when we're gonna stream and stuff in there and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah,
All
thank you for
right.
being with us, and we hope you enjoyed. And this will be up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Subscribe,
Like,
follow us.
subscribe, all that stuff. We've got all the social medias, so
Yeah,
get
follow
on
us.
it.
Take care of yourself. Keep
Bye.
learning and having fun.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.